Welcome to DCA TV. I am Jennifer Erickson, your host for today's show. Today we will speak with Dr. McKenzie. Dr. McKenzie is a highly respected cosmetic dentist who practices healthy biological techniques. From the beginning of her studies, Dr. McKenzie knew that she wanted to incorporate her artistic talents into her dental practice and create truly dazzling smiles. She joined the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry while still in dental school, making her one of 2 members in the state of Nebraska at the time. A firm believer in the power of knowledge and experience, Dr. McKenzie has completed numerous postgraduate training courses, attended lectures, and collaborated with other dentists to share ideas and experiences. She continues to enhance her expertise at every opportunity. Welcome to DCA TV, Dr. McKenzie. It is an honor to be with you. What is biological dentistry?
Well, thank you for asking. We get that question a lot. Biological dentistry is dentistry that's based strictly on science and research. I am a board member of the International Academy of Oral and Medicine and Toxicology. That is a group of dentists, researchers, MDs, PhDs that get together. We usually have 2 meetings a year. And in the meetings, we have renowned speakers from all over the world. And what we're doing is we're looking at research, we're looking at science, and we have very specific protocol that we follow to ensure that our patients are safe, that our staff members are safe, and that everything we do is backed by science and scientific research.
How does holistic dentistry go beyond ordinary dentistry?
Holistic dentistry or biologic dentistry is one where we're not just mercury safe, we're mercury free, but we call ourselves biologic dentists. Holistic dentistry we're actually more biologic dentistry users than holistic, meaning that, again, it's based on science. You can never have a completely mercury-free office because you're working on patients that have mercury fillings. So often offices will call themselves mercury-free, but they're not free. They're just not putting mercury fillings in people's mouths. Mercury safe is where you're removing mercury, but it's still, or you're putting white composite fillings in. The problem is mercury free and mercury safe are very easy to say, but the reality is a holistic or biologic office is a completely separate practice. You have to be an accredited member of the IAOMT, the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, because accreditation makes you go through numerous tests, numerous years of studies, numerous academic protocols and standards that we have to follow. When we remove mercury from patients, we follow very, very rigorous protocols that we promise to abide by. It is not the same as just being a mercury safe office or a mercury free office, because often the composite material that's out there, the white tooth colored material, has bisphosphonols in it. It has chemicals in it that are still very dangerous for people. So the chemicals that you're worried about leaching out of your plastics are in most of the composite materials. Also, fluoride is in most of the materials. We are a fluoride-free, BPA-free biologic office, which means we look at patients' full health. So often when a patient comes in, we're looking at not only how the mouth affects the body, but how the body affects the mouth. We often study tooth meridian charts, and we look at what tooth is correlating to what organ in the body. We ask people what supplements they're taking, what nutritional components that they're on, and are they working with a medical doctor or a naturopathic doctor who's helping them get rid of mercury and get rid of other toxins in their body. Often the two are completely interrelated. We don't cross over the line of dentistry and go into other fields, but we often make sure our patients are protected more on a whole body health capacity. So we have a lot of science and research that goes into what are you taking? What are you doing? What chemicals have you been exposed to in your life? What hazards do you have in your workplace? Have you been around a lot of fertilizers? Have you worked in a lot of chemical plants, pesticides, mold, Lyme disease. We look at what kinds of diseases do you have and correlate them to toxicity that the person has. So often we have patients fill out very extensive medical records and history to see what kind of health issues do they have. How does it relate to when maybe they got mercury fillings put in their mouth? Did their parents have mercury fillings? Mercury is highly toxic. It's poisonous. It is often correlated to a number of diseases and immunoreactions that people don't even expect. Rashes, ringing of the ear, ataxia, all kinds of neurological problems and disorders that go hand in hand with a lot of people getting heavy metal bioburden. Some patients are allergic to heavy metals and can't rid them from their body. So we know that looking at somebody's full body health is what's going to help them. And we often partner with our patients to help them get to be their healthiest.
Is holistic dentistry more expensive? And if you could explain why or why not?
We have a lot more protocols and a lot more equipment that we use. We ensure that the environment is safe. So our wastewater that leaves the office does not pollute the environment. So we have to buy a lot of expensive equipment to protect the patients while they're in the chair. We have numerous filters that are in the room. I have a separate air system in the room to filter out and remove toxic mercury-filled air. So a lot of the equipment that we use is extremely expensive to outfit the office. So what I do to help our patients out is we just charge a mercury removal or heavy metal removal fee. And then we'll try to see with the patient if they want to do one quadrant. We typically charge by the removal fee to help cover our disposable costs. I'm in a full hazmat suit and a gas mask when I remove mercury fillings, as is my assistant. And the patient's covered from head to toe so that they don't get mercury particles in their hair, on their body, on their clothing. They don't have it going in their mouth. We have, I use a special filter, an isolite filter in their mouth to stop them from getting any water or particles or vapor from the mercury in their mouth when they remove it. That's the key thing, is it's not just that you remove mercury or heavy metals like lead and things that are in crowns, but it's removing it so that when you do remove it, the patient doesn't get more poisoned when you remove it. And you do that by having protocol. We have a rubber dam in the patient's mouth in addition to the isolite. The isolite sucks out the water, sucks out the particles, sucks out the air and the vapors. Then we have a rubber dam that goes only around the teeth that have mercury in them. And it's also locked into place with barriers. We do additional barriers around a rubber dam to make sure nothing leaks behind it. And we have a Swiss cleanup section that goes around the tooth. And I have a second section. I have an external air filter that goes right outside the patient's mouth so that any vapors coming off the fillings go straight into that. It'll also pull viruses out of the air as well as mercury vapor. It's a specific mercury section. And I have an extra mercury suction filter in addition to that, and I have a Niken air filter, and I have an external air conditioner. We have oxygen going up the patient's nose so the patient doesn't get even more mercury vapor into their lungs. So yes, there's an additional cost that we charge for the day that we do the mercury removal for the disposables, because there are a lot of things that we remove and we go outside and throw them outside so that they do not, we have special waste removal systems that we have so that the environment's safe. So we usually charge about, well, it depends on the tooth, it depends how many, but for every tooth that has mercury removal, there's an overall fee for the mercury removal fee. It's not charged per tooth, and it just depends on the patient. And some patients can do one quadrant at a time if they're very sick. Some patients can do 2 quadrants at a time. Some patients, if they have very few mercury fillings, can do 3 or even all 4 if they've got small mercury fillings, and that helps reduce the cost. So we work with the patient and also with traveling. We get Most of our patients come from far away. So we get people that come into Atlanta, they arrive at the airport, they come to the office, and they'll have a whole day of mercury removal. They'll stay overnight, maybe the next day they'll get more done. So we tailor it to the person's needs. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's not so drastically expensive that it turns people off of getting the procedure done. But when people see how much we do to protect them and the environment, they're grateful for what we do. So it's not overly exorbitant, but it's certainly reasonable.
Can you explain how early signs of many illnesses are indicated by a state of change in the mouth?
You know, it's interesting. In studying, I just did a lecture for the International College of Integrative Medical Doctors the other day, and it started by looking at the gut. It was the mouth-gut connection. And you can actually see bacteria that's in the mouth that are around the gums and underneath the gums being the exact same type of bacteria that you find in people that have heart attacks, that have other serious diseases. And you can actually look at the bacteria under a microscope and test patients, and you will find that they have a high prevalence of certain bacteria that are absolutely related to very serious systemic diseases. If you can catch it in the mouth early, you can stop a lot of problems that the patient may have. And so the key, if you think about it, the mouth is really the first and major place where you can see the inside and the outside connecting. People think that they eat a lot of sugary foods or that they eat a lot of acidic food and that affects their teeth or their gums, or they have bulimia and they throw up and they have acid on their teeth and their teeth wear out. What we're finding is that the gut is full of a lot of bacteria. We are walking, really, we're just walking bacteria. The bacteria that we have in our stomach and in our organs affects our teeth, and vice versa. If you can see that people have a lot of buildup of bacteria, if they've got bleeding gums, if they've got a lot of heavy plaque and heavy calculus and a lot of decay in their mouths, you're going to see that their teeth and their organs correlate. You can actually look at a tooth meridian and see that certain populations, their molars have massive decay. You can look at their organs and see that those organs are having problems. So you can often catch things in the mouth before they become problems in the rest of the body, and sometimes help reverse some of the things that can be serious. And you can also help guide patients to go to doctors so that the doctors can work with them and do food allergy tests, see what kinds of things that they're allergic to. If you've got a high prevalence of bacteria and decay in your teeth, it means your gut's off. It means your stomach is off. It means the bacteria that are running your body are out of sync, and that you maybe have malabsorption of nutrients, malabsorption of vitamins, fat, protein metabolism, energy problems, different things. So we try to help work with people so that they get an overall vision of their health, and then we like to work with their doctors and naturopaths to help them get back on the right track. And often they get healthy. It's wonderful to see. You can see people that come in with really heavy metal fillings, heavy mercury toxicity. They take it out of their mouth and they come back and they look 1,000 times better. They feel better. Now, it's not always the way, but often you see a correlation between their teeth getting better and the rest of their body getting better.
In holistic dentistry, every tooth is connected to an organ. What teeth correspond to which organs?
We have a wonderful app that you can go to on my website. If you go to dazzlingsmiles.org, it's a very user-friendly, interactive website, and you can actually click on the teeth that you're interested in or concerned about, and it will go to the organ, and it will go through every different thing that you could think about. So you can click on, the upper arch has 16 teeth, which in numbering, start on your upper right, go to your upper left, and drop down. So number 1 through 16, 17 is your lower left, through 32 is your lower right. So we always start on the right side, go left, drop down, and then go back to the right. So you can figure out what tooth numbers you have. The wisdom teeth start with number 1, and on the upper right, go through 16 is your wisdom tooth on your upper left, 17 is your lower left wisdom tooth, and 32 is your lower right wisdom tooth. So often people that have had their teeth extracted don't even have to worry about the wisdom teeth anymore, but you do have to worry about what's called a cavitation. A cavitation is where you've had the tooth removed, but if the little ligament that was holding the tooth in place was not removed, it's called a periodontal ligament. If the bone was, if the tooth was taken out and the periodontal ligament was left around where the tooth was, the bone will grow together, but the ligament will still remain. And the body doesn't know when the ligament is still there that it can completely close up. So you end up getting a little tiny cyst that's very difficult to see. So some people have problems with something called a cavitation. So even when we look at people who've had teeth that are missing, we look at their tooth meridian chart to see, do you have energy flowing at that area? Are you having a problem even if there's no tooth there? So you have to look at your tooth meridian chart, not only for teeth that are there that have had work done, but also for teeth that are missing, because if they were not removed properly, you can have a continual problem with them with a little cyst and not know that there's been a problem. Also, you could have a root canal tooth that had mercury in it, and if the tooth was extracted and they left part of the material still in there, you could have a little cyst full of mercury material where a tooth had been that was extracted that had mercury in it, and a root canal, and it can still have a lot of infection in it. So we often worry about teeth not only that have fillings, but teeth that were extracted, and do they have any cysts where they used to be? So we kind of look at that. Those are called cavitations. So it's very important that when you're doing teeth extractions, you do them in a very specific way. Anything that will desiccate or dry the bone out, such as a vasoconstrictor, which is a anesthetic using a strong vasoconstrictor, will stop the blood to the area, and it will also help to promote more of a cavitational problem, which is what we're concerned about for patients. We don't want basically dry, desiccated bone. If you remove a tooth, you want there to be a lot of blood flow, a lot of oxygenation. We often use ozone in our treatment to help patients kill bacteria, viruses, funguses, molds that may be in an area where a tooth has been extracted. So there's a lot of things that go on looking at tooth meridian charts, not just existing teeth that are there or existing teeth that have fillings, but also missing teeth. And if they're missing, what was going on with the tooth to begin with.
Is cosmetic dentistry possible with holistic dentistry? Why or why not?
Well, I'm backwards. So I started off with a love for cosmetic dentistry. I initially did not, like most dentists, were not taught in dental school about mercury. So I just didn't think they looked pretty. I graduated in 1999. At that time in dental school, we were taught to place mercury fillings in people's mouth. Veneers were just starting at that time. White tooth-colored fillings were just coming out. We were taught that they were not as strong as the silver mercury fillings. So I ended up having to go to cosmetic dental programs on my own after graduating from dental school. They didn't really teach us that in dental school at the time. So my first love was cosmetic dentistry. I like making people look gorgeous and beautiful, and I've actually been in a few, I've had my patients been promoted as models. The Microdental Laboratory in California, which is a very highly regarded laboratory that does all the models in Hollywood, They actually selected one of my patients to be in their calendar that they do only twice a year. And so, I'm sorry, only once a year. And I was the only doctor that has been put in their calendar for 2 years in a row. And they've never had a doctor that they've used before. The thing that makes cosmetic dentistry nice is you're using all ceramics. So there's no materials that you have to worry about for patients that will be not biocompatible with their body. So often we do biocompatibility testing on patients. With the material that we put in their mouths, we look at their blood, their IgG, IgM to see if they're biocompatible with their body. The ceramics are fairly safe, so you don't really have biocompatibility issues. Another thing that I've done is I brought all ceramic implants from Switzerland to the state of Georgia. Typically, they were used in Europe for many years. They were not used in America, but I like ceramic implants. I don't like metal. They release metal ions. People have ion release from them. Often they get nickel allergies because there's nickel involved with the metal implants. These are pretty. They're biocompatible. They're all white. They're tooth colored. And actually the reason I like them is because bone will grow into the sides of them because they are laser micro etched to look just like the topography of bone. So the reason I like these is that there's great tissue response. Tissue grows up and over the implants beautifully. They're white, they look just like teeth. And so if you are missing a tooth, you can have a pretty white tooth-colored implant that is made of zirconia, which is a ceramic, it's all glass, and you can put a zirconia all glass ceramic veneer or crown on top of it. On an implant, it would be a crown. So you don't have any biocompatibility issues with cosmetic work. So it's important for me that my patients have material that's pretty and aesthetic, but safe and biocompatible with their body.
What are some of the cosmetic procedures possible in holistic dentistry?
Some of the cosmetic procedures that are possible in biologic dentistry are white tooth-colored fillings that are placed in smaller areas where somebody has just a small cavity, and they are composite materials, but they are safe. They're organic based. There are no BPAs, no plastics. They're pretty, they're white, they're strong, they last a long time, but they're mainly for smaller materials, smaller fillings. For people that have bigger areas of decay, we like to do either all ceramic crowns or all ceramic inlays or onlays so that we protect the entire tooth, and we use material that is biocompatible and safe with their body. Composite fillings for biologic dental practice are very important that we use the right material that's biocompatible and safe for the patient's body. There are numerous white composite materials on the market. The problem is some of them have fluoride, some of them have plastics in them. We only use composite materials that are safe, that are organic based, that have been tested against people to make sure that they do not give them any BPAs or any plastics. So we make sure that what we place in the patient's mouth is safe and that it's pretty, it's white, it's tooth colored, it's strong, but it's primarily safe. And we often will run biocompatibility testing on patients that are sick. We use the Clifford biocompatibility test where we have patients get their blood drawn at a medical office, and we give them a kit, they send it out, and their blood is tested against 16,900 different dental materials that are on the market to ensure that the materials that we use in their body are safe for them specifically. And that way then we make sure that our patients are safe and we don't worry about them having problems with the materials, even though the ones that we use are only organic based.
Will my dental insurance cover any cosmetic procedure I wish to do?
There are thousands of different dental insurance companies out there. We cater our work based on what the patient needs. So if somebody has work that they need to have done, we file it for them to the insurance company. But typically we don't cater patient's treatment on what their insurance pays for. Insurance hasn't changed their payment in over 60 years, and they don't cover a whole lot. So we kind of think of it as if they do cover some, it's great. It would be considered a filling or a crown or a veneer. Typically, the patient has out-of-pocket expenses that they pay, and maybe portions of it the insurance will pay, but we don't dictate our treatment and our care based on what insurance will pay. We're not kind of a big Walmart practice. We're more of a cosmetic practice where we focus on what does the person need. And we don't go crazy with over-treating patients. We try to do what's conservative, what would look nice, but what's safe, and we don't change our standards. We don't cater what we treatment plan based on insurance. We cater it on what the patient needs. And that's where often we're reverse of every other practice. So, but we look at full body, and we look at full mouth as a whole. So just like if you were to go to your medical doctor and he were to tell you, well, you have a heart condition and you have a foot condition and you have a skin condition, but let's just only focus on the heart condition. You'd want to know overall everything. So often when a patient comes in, we'll focus on what their needs are, where they might have decay, but we also talk about, well, what do you like? What would you like your smile to look at? We do Invisalign see-through braces. So we often will think about if you need an implant and you don't like your teeth. Well, if you have a tooth that's broken and it ends up having to be extracted, then sometimes we'll put patients in see-through braces and put them in the right position so that their teeth look pretty first, and then we'll place the implant later, and we'll use the implant as a little retainer, and we'll put a little fake white tooth in it so it'll cover the implant. So if you think about it, if you're missing an important tooth, but your teeth are crooked, we can make a see-through little tray and put a fake tooth in it so it doesn't look like you're missing a tooth. But we look at the full mouth overall. So we can straighten the teeth, put everything in the right position so it's functionally accurate. And then we can, after everything's been placed properly, then go back and put in an implant later. But meanwhile, while the patient's waiting for the implant to be put in the right position from a foundational structure, they're not walking around with an ugly missing tooth and feeling self-conscious or feeling like they can't be pretty. So we talk about making sure that their teeth look white, look healthy. We put everything in the right position. We try to make it so that it's logical, and we also try to help sometimes plan out things so that if people can't do everything all at once, but they know that down the road they want to do crowns after implants and they want their teeth straight first, well, we help them buy some time. So we might put them in Invisalign braces, maybe bleach their teeth, put everything in the right position, then later put the implants in, then after their teeth are straight, then put their crowns in. So we do a lot of looking at people's overall mouth so that they look pretty. We look at things like pointed canines, where people might look more like a vampire and they don't like their pointed canines. We look at negative space, so if people are missing teeth and when they open their mouth, the black gaps in their mouth show up kind of like negative art. So when you open your mouth and you've got darkness behind your teeth, you can see the edges of your teeth. We want to make sure that the edges are even and that the teeth are evenly spaced following golden proportion. And we plan on doing veneers and crowns so that the teeth look symmetrical. What nature loves is symmetry. We don't just look at teeth. We look at the gums around the teeth. We make sure that the gums are symmetrical. We look at the incisal edges. We look at the arch form. We try to look at everything overall, so we don't just look at a single tooth by tooth. We try to look at the full mouth. I want people to love their smile. I want people to love the way they look. You've got one life. You might want to just have your best life and not wait. and enjoy it. Look beautiful, but do it in a safe way and do it in a smart way. So you're looking at everything and coming up with an overall plan and really thinking it through before you jump in and do things tooth by tooth.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. McKenzie. This concludes this episode of DCA TV.
Thank you, Jennifer.